often we find that there are certain things that are necessary for us to do, but we just don't feel like doing, or we dread, we even hate, in a sense, these things that are really necessary for us to accomplish, for us to do, for us to achieve, for us to get done. Whether it be a goal, whether it be an obligation that someone else has held us to, whether it be an obligation that we're holding ourselves to, so many of different things, such as schoolwork, going to the gym, work, whatever it may be, things that we're obligated to do, things that we're obligated to accomplish, things that we're obligated to be responsible for. We dread, or we have some kind of hate, or we have some kind of grudge against what it is that we are responsible for, what it is that we are accountable for. We have some kind of strong emotion in this aspect, in this sense. We really don't feel like doing it. We really don't want to do it. We've been putting it off for so long. We dread accomplishing these things. We dread getting it done. This is not the correct mindset to have. And that is something that has to be thrown out. That is something that has to be thrown away. We have to acknowledge our obligations with cheerfulness. When we go to work, when we're obligated to do this thing, when we're responsible for this person, we have to acknowledge that with cheerfulness. When we receive a benefit from someone else, we have to acknowledge it with cheerfulness. We can't shy it away. We can't be embarrassed about it. We can't put it under the rug. When we receive a benefit from somebody, an obligation in that sense, when we have an obligation of work or responsibility, when we have an obligation of many of a dozen things, we cannot put it off. We cannot put it behind us. We cannot throw it under the rug. We have to acknowledge it with cheerfulness. It is your responsibility. This is something you have to attend to. You have to acknowledge it with cheerfulness. And that is a part of sincerity. One of the most important things is how sincere we are with ourselves. One of the most important things is how honest we are with ourselves, because that is when what you're speaking and what you're thinking and what you're feeling are in sync. That is how you come off pure, you come off honest. Because those that have eyes to see can look right through your dishonesty. Those that have eyes to see can see that you dread whatever it is that you're doing, can see that you're putting under the rug your obligations, can see that you're putting your responsibilities behind yourself, can see that you're not attending to your work the right way. You're exposed, but your own vanity does not allow you to see yourself. And when you don't see yourself, others discover you most plainly. When you can't see yourself, others will discover you plainly. Others will see you plainly. Others will see you for who you truly are. Others will see you for how you really are. When you are putting on a show, when you are being vain, when you're putting on deceit, when you're putting on dissimulation, when you're not being sincere, when you're not being true to your responsibility, when you're not being true to what it is that you have to attend to in whatever moment, other people will see you for who you really are. Other people will see straight through you. So the message is, acknowledge your obligations with cheerfulness. The obligations that are put upon you by the Almighty Creator. The obligations that are put upon you by work, your boss, put upon you by yourself, put upon you by your relationship, your significant other, the obligation of your children, right? The obligation that are put upon you by your parents. We have to acknowledge these things with cheerfulness. We can't grudge on them. I gotta do this next thing. What does that look like? That's not moving with love. That's not moving with that true compassion. We're blessed to have an obligation. We're blessed to have a responsibility over something else. We're blessed to be given the obligation or the responsibility of looking over someone else, or looking after someone else, or looking after something else. If you have an obligation as a parent, you have an obligation of the care of that child. You have an obligation of looking over and looking after that child. And so we have to acknowledge it with cheerfulness. It's going to be difficult. Of course, the obligations are not easy. It's simple, but it may not be easy. There's a lot of trials and temptations that we have to go through, that we have to get over. But we have to acknowledge it with cheerfulness. We have to go through the storm smiling, sing in the rain, dance in the rain. Understand that there's light on the other side. Understand that this suffering, this obligation, whatever it may be that we're going through in this moment, is for our own improvement. It's for the betterment of our situation, of ourselves. You see as far as you need to see. We can't worry about the future. We can't fret on anything. We can't fret on this obligation, this responsibility that we have. If someone has given us a benefit, we can't put it under the rug and try to hide it because it hurts our ego and our pride. You got to acknowledge that obligation. You've been obliged. Someone gives you a benefit, you received an obligation. You have an obligation to return that favor. So you can't put that under the rug. You can't put that in secret. So when I'm talking about you see as far as you need to see, right? You may not know what the next turn is. You may not know what lies beyond in this very moment. But keep going. Keep trusting your sight that you have right now. The information that you have right now. You know your destination. You know what your destination is. You know what you have right now in your vision. You know what you have right now in your knowledge and your understanding. That's all you need in this moment to get to the next step, where you'll have unfolded even more vision, even more understanding. It's like headlights at night. If you're driving at night, you know what your destination is, but you can't really see the whole road in front of you. You can only see as far as your lights go. You see just as much as you need to see. Allah sees everything. He sees the rest of the path. He sees the next turn. He sees the next stop. He sees what lies ahead. Have faith in Him. Have faith in His vision. Have faith in His vision, in His discernment, in His discretion, in His judgment. We know the destination, but you see just as far as you need to see. And in that moment, within that knowledge, within that sight that you have, lies your obligation. You're responsible for the wheel. You have an obligation to the wheel. You have an obligation to your passengers, those that you're bringing along with you on the ride. So we can't just stop. Have confidence. You have to be confident. Be confident in your obligations. Be cheerful in your obligations. Be cheerful with them headlights in your vision and your sight. You see as far as you need to. Thank you all for coming here. I feel like I said enough in this video. So, when you've said enough, say peace and sit down. I'm already sitting down, but I'm about to say peace. Have a good one.